All right, well, my name is Richard Villacres, and this is my 1954 Dodge M152. Was a command truck in the Canadian Army, and I got it about 9 years ago. It was a derelict. I had to rebuild literally everything mechanically and build the interior. And I've been on the road living out of it full time for 7 years now, almost seven. And I basically travel around and gift photography to families in homeless shelters and a few other things. I just do philanthropy. I'm a gifter that roams around, mostly the American West, done Baja, a little bit up into Western Canada, BC. Okay, so the truck was a command truck in the Canadian Army. Its actual designation was an M152, and it got surplus from the Canadian Army in the late 60s. It was bought by a steel mill in London, Ontario, and they ran it for about 15 years before they sold it to a farmer who put it in his barn intending to someday restore it, and he passed away before he ever did it. 35 years later, the guy I bought it from bought it, thinking, I could get it running, and it turned out he could not. It was way more than he had the experience to do. So he put it up for sale about the time that I had let everybody in my network know I'm looking for an old World War II or old military ambulance to turn into a home. And a friend of mine in New York saw the Craigslist ad for this. And so I got a hold of Bruce, who was the guy I bought it from, and we worked out a deal. And it took me about 5 months to pay for it at a distance and then have it shipped via semi all the way from London, Ontario to Ellensburg, Washington, where I was living at the time. At which point I realized I had no idea what a huge task I had undertaken. But I just started working bit by bit, repairing each system. Had to replace all the brakes, all the brake lines, had to replace the fuel tank, had to replace all the fuel lines, had to ultimately rebuild everything except for the steering in the truck. I got the original engine running. That took a few months, but I only got about 6,000 miles out of that before it completely clapped out, at which point I dropped in a small block Chevy, a Chevy 350, and that was a game changer because the original engine was only 80 horsepower. With a 9,000 pound truck, it was downright dangerous in cities and on highways because I couldn't get out of my own way. It was so slow. So now I've got like 300 horse, and so it's still not fast by modern standards, but at least I can get up to speed in a reasonable amount of time and get on a highway, you know. But yeah, I basically, as I was rebuilding everything mechanical, I designed and built the interior as well, and just kept doing it as I had the cash to do it. You know, for me, not having any debt is like the key to freedom to even do these things. So I've been debt free for 15 years, and I just did everything with cash as I could. I built a lot of the interior using reclaimed wood and just different stuff I would find, and couldn't do that with parts and all the work on the drivetrain, but I just did it over time as I had cash to do it. And it was a real experience, especially after I got it running and first time go around the block and you break down and barely limp home. And so for about 6 months it was these slowly expanding circles, 5 miles, and then something would go bad, 10, 15 miles. And I mean, even on my first real trip of any distance, it was going to be 50 miles, and it totally broke down like at mile 45. And yeah, I mean, it took a lot of years to get it. It was actually 2019 when I repowered it. It was finally a truly roadable machine. So yeah, that's kind of the history of the truck, and it's a real rare body. They only made 996 of these, and I'm pretty sure I'm the only person that's actually living and traveling in one. I've found a few that own them, and they're like a parade toy or a farm toy, or they use it to go hunting in, but nobody that's living and traveling in one. All right, well, I travel to big cities. I spend probably 90% of my time in urban cores like San Francisco or Seattle or any big city on the West Coast, and I get a hold of shelters, homeless shelters that take care of families. I also do women's day centers where homeless women are trying to get job training, etc., and they need like a picture for LinkedIn, that sort of thing. But at either any of the shelters, be it even a safe park, I set up a professional portrait set and I do these pictures for free. They're just for the people I'm photographing. And so this has me in big cities for fair amounts of time. And I have learned, found my way around where to park, etc. I have a fair bit of privilege because of the nature of this vehicle. I know that people are way more tolerant of it because it's special. You know, it's an old vintage truck. And they can see right on the side, I have my website on the side, and I've parked in places, you know, in San Francisco or even Seattle, where I knew I was legal to park, but a lot of times you don't know if people are going to like it, you know. Like a traditional van lifer, it can be tricky in the city. And I've had people come out and bring me dinner. I've had people come out and thank me for what I'm doing because they were able to look up what I was doing. So I'm not a good example of what it's like to deal with being a van lifer in a city because I have a lot of privilege because of the nature of the truck and the karma of what I'm doing. And I only spend the night. Typically, I go to a spot for the night, and in the morning I roll. I'm never like there for days at a time. But so yeah, and then in between the cities, I go off into remote places. The truck is 4x4. It's incredibly capable off-road. I can go pretty much up any trail I want to that I'm willing to put my truck through, which isn't much because it's my home. I don't want to break it. But I can go out on beaches. I can drive up sand washes, muddy trails, and you know, I don't go crazy, but I do go out to remote places that are really, really wonderful and just kind of roam around. In between the city spans, I just choose new roads to go, you know, back roads and new places. I was a commercial advertising photographer for 30 years. All the work I did was to sell something. It was always to sell. A product, a service, whatever. And it provided a good, you know, it provided for my family. It was a good career, but a lot of stuff changed in my life in 2013, and all of a sudden I didn't have to keep following the same path, and I just found myself really burned out on always selling, always using this gift I have creatively to sell a product, and I just decided I'm done. There's got to be a way how can I get to a place where I'm doing photography that matters, that means something. And that to me was the gifting of the portraits. And I had done some of that previously before I ever came to this conclusion, just like a once a year thing to do to bless local families. And I just decided that's what I got to do. So it meant, you know, finding a way to live really cheaply, and do I have enough savings to make it to Social Security, etc. But it's all been worth it to me. You know, I live on the financial edge a lot of the time, but my heart is so full because of how it feels to do these portraits. You know, the moms are beside themselves. They're so grateful. The kids don't realize what it means, but they will someday. You know, I grew up through a lot of domestic horrible stuff, and there are no pictures of us as a young family together, you know, and because we were in survival mode like a lot of these families are. And so being able to bring a professional set to the shelter, set it up with the lights and everything, and do a beautiful portrait, the stories I could tell you about the moms and how grateful they are is really something. So basically, I'm doing this. It's just purely become my purpose, and living in a truck has been my way to afford to do it. I did choose a vehicle I was passionate about because I figured if I'm going to live in a truck for the foreseeable future, I want it to be something that puts a smile on my face every time I walk up to it, and this does. So, yeah, that's basically the gist of what I'm doing, just roaming, gifting, and feeling really blessed to be able to do so. And yeah, if you want to follow what I'm doing, I've got a YouTube channel. It's just Jackdaw Love, and you can see my vlog. I do a weekly vlog, and I have Instagram and my website and stuff. So, yeah,